Hey guys, how you doing? Derby here. So you may know or may not know that this week was TGS week, Tokyo Game Show. And of course Square Enix was there with their lovely Yoshida talking about the future of Final Fantasy XIV. And of course he did two Q&As. Well, one was a presentation and the second one was a Q&A, but he discussed a lot of things that will be coming into this game. And there is a lot of content that will be coming in 2.1. So I'm going to go straight in and start discussing what's coming in 2.1. Well, the first thing we're going to get is Shan Toto. If you are an 11 player, you will know who Shan Toto is. And she will be making a return into this game as a Fate. And if you defeat this Fate, you will get a Shan Toto minion that follows you around. It's adorable, really cute, and honestly I really cannot wait to have one of these little dolls with me. Unfortunately, character transfer services will be halted until the middle of October. They were actually due for this week, I believe, but where. Next up is the Lightning Returns collaboration. It looks kind of fun, I guess. It looks kind of alright. Now, apparently, if the translation is correct, the Lightning Returns fate or event will happen around the 14th of November or the week of the 14th of November, and apparently will have a background story as to why she came down here. There will also be a really cool background music apparently. And if we take a look at these screenshots, you may be able to notice that there is a rather blurry image of Bahamut from Final Fantasy XIII that we get to fight. Next up will be Good King Moggle Mog. Yes, he is making a return into 2.1 and he will be a hard mode primal fight. It is unconfirmed, however, if there will also be a normal mode slash story mode fight for this primal. On top of that, we're also going to be having extreme mode primal fights for Titan, Garuda and Ifrit. So I honestly cannot wait to fight these. We're going to have a hard mode for two existing dungeons. Now, in case you don't know what the hard mode dungeons are, apparently they are meant to be level 50 versions of the dungeons, which have a completely new layout and new bosses, and just it's basically an entire new dungeon. And this was in one of his letters from the producer back earlier this year. I can't remember. So the new dungeon that will be coming out is called Pharos Sirius. I highly believe this will be an endgame dungeon, but we'll have to see what happens. Next up, we have the Crystal Tower. Now, there's a lot of information for the Crystal Tower. The Crystal Tower is basically free for parties, which makes up a 24-player challenge. It is unconfirmed whether we'll have a separate complete new raid window for this, or whether it will just quite simply be 3 parties that go into this dungeon. Just like in Final Fantasy III, you will be aiming to get to the top of the tower to defeat Cloud of Darkness, and yes, Cloud of Darkness is making a return in this. On top of that, majority of the famous Final Fantasy III bosses like Heinz will be making a return, and they will all be in the Crystal Tower. The Crystal Tower is apparently meant to be easier than the Binding Coil of Bahamut as well. Before you can even get to the Crystal Tower, just like in Final Fantasy III, there will be a dungeon labyrinth that you have to go through in order to get access to the Crystal Tower. Now, the translation about this is kind of rough, but it made it seem like you have to use a duty finder to get through this dungeon, and then you get to the Crystal Tower. It's unconfirmed whether you can actually use the duty finder for the Crystal Tower, but the translation definitely does say that we can use the duty finder to get to the dungeon. Now, as I said before, the Crystal Tower raid setup will basically be free for parties. In this image that I'm about to show you, Yoshida said something very important. As you can see in this image, there are 3 tombstones that are floating in the air, and apparently the entire raid has to split up in their respective parties and take out each one of these little floating tombstones at the same time. On top of that, Of course, in 2.1 there will also be the item level restriction. Now Yoshida has said that the item level needed for the Crystal Tower will not be gear from Bahamut. In other words, you will not be needing eye level 90 gear as a gear requirement to get into the Crystal Tower. However, he has said that a relic weapon may well be one of the entry item restrictions that actually get into the Crystal Tower. So in other words, if you haven't got your relic, not much we can do. Yoshida also said that if you are familiar with Final Fantasy III, some of the endgame items like the Crystal Gear, and fingers crossed some of the legendary weapons that are locked in Eureka, such as Excalibur, Masamune, Ragnarok, and Elder Staff, may make an appearance as extra gear from the Crystal Tower. And honestly, if I can get my hands on a Masamune or a Ragnarok, I'm gonna be so happy. Now, if you may remember also that the Crystal Tower and the Binding Core of Bahamut will be an expanding dungeon, and they will be adding more and more floors to the dungeons as patches progress. And Yoshida said that 2.1 will be the introduction of the Crystal Tower, and then 2.2 will be the expansion of the Binding Core of Bahamut, and then 2.3 will be the expansion of the Crystal Tower. Next up, we have the highly anticipated player-owned housing. There are estates for individual people like myself and you, or there are free company estates. Please note that an estate isn't another word for a house. An estate is a collection of houses. There are going to be 3 sizes of housing: small, medium and large. Of course, the pricing is going to vary depending on the size of your house. But Yoshida has said that he has not set the prices for any of the houses. He said this is because he wants to put more gil into the game, and he doesn't want people to look into their wallets and say, oh, I've only got this much gil, and then get worried because they can't afford a house. So I assume he wants to make housing relatively affordable, but of course people who actually earned their money can get a house. There are over 300 parts you can build your house from. 300 parts. So you can change your windows, you can change the roof, you can change the chimneys, you can change the doors, you can even change the fencing around your house. So you can have a basic stone wall, you can have wooden fencing, you can have elaborate statues going around your house, or depending on the price, of course. Of course, there are going to be 3 different estates you can pick from: Limsa Lamisa, Uldar, and New Gridania. Now, you can already go and visit the Limsa Lomisa housing area, because that is already in-game. However, there are 2 concept screenshots of the Uldar and the New Gridania housing estates. And I must say, the Uldar housing estate looks absolutely fantastic. Inside your personal house, you'll also be able to grow Gaishul Green, finally have Chocobo breeding. There's going to be a basement workspace or a basement workshop where you can go and work together with other people to build like ships. Now, it's up to the FC leader to decide who can actually decorate and change the house. So who can put what chair where, who can put what wallpaper where. They are also planning to have NPC shops where you can hire the NPC so they can sell your items. And on top of that, they're going to have retainer stands where you can place your retainers out in certain locations and people can then go and buy. Now, crafters, you're going to make a real big impact for player-owned housing. So, culinarians will be able to make decorative food for the table, but he joked and said that you won't be able to make furniture out of bread, for example. Battle classes will be able to go out and gather items for crafts, so they can make really cool items like a marble lamp shell, which is actually one of the concept art images. Weavers might be able to make chocobo dolls, for example. Carpenters might be able to make cabinets, and you'll be able to also be able to make sofas and chairs and lots of other really cool things. So you people with 50 crafting, you're really going to be making a lot of money from player-owned housing. We're also going to be having the Wolves Den. In case you don't know, the Wolves Den is the Final Fantasy XIV's version of a arena coliseum. People will be fighting each other in groups of 4, and there are 3 different level ranges: level 30, level 40, and level 50. Now, this is very interesting because actual PvP groups can then set up fights with other people with different level restrictions, etc. It could be really fun. I really can't wait to see how it's going to be working. In PvP, we're going to be having PvP only skills, and of course from PvP there's going to be a PvP point system. So the more you play through PvP, the more points you can get, and these points can only be used within PvP. And I presume with these points you can maybe go and buy different skills. On top of that, we may also be able to use these points and spend them on actual PvP gear, and the PvP gear looks really fucking awesome. Another really cool feature is how groups are actually set up. So if you go into the PvP Coliseum with a duty finder, you will only ever fight other players who are actually in duty finder groups. However, if you go into PvP Coliseum with a pre-made group of 4 players, you will only be matched up by other groups of pre-made players. I guess this is to make it fair, so people who have actual communication and actual solid PvP groups won't have an unfair advantage over random duty finder pod groups. They are also planning to have 1 versus 1 matching. Again, they haven't stated how they will do this, but from the translation, it seems like they're hinting that 1 versus 1 matching may be done in the frontier or in the front lines, which is basically going to be the Final Fantasy XIV's realm versus realm PvP. Now, patch 2.1 is planned to be coming between mid and late October. Also, they're going to be doing special unveiling events. So on the 9th of October, they're going to be doing a special event on player-owned housing. And on the 10th of October, they're going to be doing a special event on the Crystal Tower. Also in 2.1, treasure hunting is going to be a thing. This is where you can find a treasure map across the world, and then you can go and find this treasure. You can do this either as a solo or as a party. There's also going to be a hard mode boss fight. Now, Yoshida specifically said boss fight, indicating we may well see an Ultimate Weapon hard mode or a Vangelis hard mode, and I honestly cannot wait to see what the boss is going to be. There's also going to be daily primal quests and daily beastman quests. Now, Yoshida hasn't really said much about these. However, he did indicate that with the beastman quest, you go and make contact with these beastmen, and you can do them solo or as a party. There's also going to be a new random matching feature. Now, Yoshida hasn't really said much about this random matching feature, other than we'll be matched up with random people, and he has said that people who use these random matching features will be rewarded with tokens which you can use and exchange for better gear. There's also going to be a barber coming in patch 2.1, so you can go and change your hairstyle, change your hair color, change your facial hair for example. And there's also going to be an item sorting feature with a new UI for it, and I believe that pretty much covers everything that's going to be coming in patch 2.1. I also want to give a very big shout out to Reinhardt, because honestly he is such a big help to the community, and if it wasn't for him we wouldn't have information on the majority of the stuff that's coming into this game. So I want to give a very big thank you to you. So hopefully you've liked this video. Subscribe if you want to see more Final Fantasy XIV related videos, and I'll see you guys next time.